Every gardener has been told the same thing. Turn your compost every week if you want it to break down fast. But if you've spent months shoveling, sweating, and flipping that pile only to end up with half-rotted chunks, here's the truth. You've been overworking your compost and slowing it down in the process. There's a better, lazier way. A method that lets biology do the work for you while cutting composting time in half. This isn't magic. It's just understanding how microbes actually behave when we stop interfering with them. Turning compost too often kills the natural heat cycles that drive decomposition. Composting is about balance, carbon and nitrogen, air and moisture, heat and life. Every time you turn the pile, you interrupt that balance. When a compost heap first starts breaking down, bacteria multiply rapidly and generate heat that can reach up to 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That heat cooks pathogens, weed seeds, and tough fibers, transforming your scraps into humus. But when you turn too soon or too often, you release that heat, scatter the microbial colonies, and force them to start from scratch. It's like pulling a cake out of the oven every 10 minutes and expecting it to bake faster. It doesn't work. The truth is, compost doesn't need constant aeration. What it needs is structure. Enough airflow through the pile so oxygen can reach microbes naturally without you lifting a fork. That's where the lazy pile trick comes in. It uses layering and internal airflow channels to let compost self-aerate and heat up properly from the inside out. The lazy pile trick relies on building the compost correctly from the start. To make this work, the pile has to breathe on its own. Instead of mixing everything together and constantly turning it, you build it in layers that provide both food and airflow. Start with a coarse base layer about 6 inches thick. Dry sticks, small branches, corn stalks, or even wood chips work perfectly for this. That bottom layer acts like a ventilation floor, pulling oxygen upward and preventing the pile from turning anaerobic. Next comes your green layer, the nitrogen-rich material like grass clippings, manure, kitchen scraps, or fresh weeds. Spread it about 3 to 4 inches thick, then follow with your brown layer, carbon sources, such as dry leaves, straw, or shredded cardboard, roughly twice the thickness of your greens. You're looking for a ratio close to 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. In practice, that means 2 parts brown to 1 part green by volume. So you'll want to continue layering in this pattern until the pile is at least 3 feet tall and wide, which is really the minimum size needed to sustain internal heat. As you build, make sure to water each layer so it feels, well, like a wrung-out sponge, not dripping wet, just moist enough to keep microbial activity alive. Once the pile is built, resist the urge to touch it. Honestly, this is where most gardeners fail. They just can't resist poking, turning, or checking the pile every few days. But if you've built it right, you really don't need to. Within 3 to 5 days, the center will heat up on its own. You'll know it's working when you see steam or feel warmth when you push your hand in. Now, just leave it alone for 3 to 4 weeks. During that time, the internal core will rise and fall through its natural heat cycle. When the temperature drops noticeably after a few weeks, that's your cue. Not to turn, but to let the outer layers begin their own breakdown. If you want to accelerate things even further, there's one simple addition: vertical air channels. Before finishing the pile, push 3 or 4 perforated PVC pipes or thick bundles of sticks vertically into the heap. These act as passive chimneys, letting oxygen move through the pile without losing heat. You get the aeration benefit of turning without disrupting microbial colonies. Moisture management is what separates fast composters from failed piles. The lazy method works only if your pile stays at the right moisture level. Too dry and decomposition slows, too wet and it turns sour. A simple test is the squeeze method. Grab a handful of material from the middle and squeeze, and it should release just a drop or 2 of moisture. If it's dripping, add more dry browns like shredded cardboard or straw. If it's dusty dry, sprinkle with water using a watering can rather than soaking it with a hose. In warm weather, check moisture weekly. In cooler months, every 2 weeks is fine. Covering the pile with a tarp helps retain both heat and moisture, especially during heavy rains or strong sun. The tarp also prevents nutrient loss from leaching. With patience, the lazy pile actually outperforms turned compost in both speed and quality. When you stop turning and just let biology settle, you create a sort of stratified system inside your compost. The center becomes, well, a furnace where thermophilic bacteria work non-stop. As the heat subsides, fungi and actinomycetes move in to break down lignin and those tougher fibers. Worms and beetles, they follow later, finishing the material into crumbly, dark humus. By letting each microbial phase run its full course without interruption, decomposition happens, honestly, faster and more completely. A properly built lazy pile can produce finished compost in as little as 8 to 10 weeks during warm weather compared to the 4 or 5 months it often takes for frequently turned piles. The end result is richer, darker, and far more biologically active compost that smells just like forest soil, not the sour, half-cooked stuff you get from overhandled piles. You can even adapt this method to smaller urban spaces. If you're working in a small yard or using a bin, the same principles still apply. Lay sticks or coarse material at the bottom for airflow, alternate greens and browns in the same 2-to-1 ratio, and insert a vertical air pipe right through the center. Keep the lid just slightly ajar or drill side vents for passive aeration. With this setup, there's really no need to flip or stir. The heat and airflow will manage themselves, and you'll have finished compost in 2 to 3 months depending on the season. The real secret is trusting the biology, not fighting it. Nature doesn't turn compost piles. Forest floors, meadows and pastures decompose just fine without human hands flipping them. What nature does is maintain balance, moisture, air and diversity of material. By replicating that balance in a structured pile, you step back and let the microbes do what they were designed to do. It's efficient, low effort, and reliable year-round. So next time you reach for the pitchfork, stop. Build it right once and let time, heat, and biology take over. You'll save your back, speed up your composting, and end up with richer soil food than ever before. If this guide helped you rethink your composting routine, make sure to subscribe to Soil Doctor and share this video with other gardeners who are tired of turning piles for nothing. Together, let's spread the lazy compost revolution and bring smarter soil building to every garden.